The waves crashed against the small boat, threatening to swallow it whole. The disciples cried out in terror as water poured in from all sides. But in the distance, a figure approached, walking on the churning sea as if it were solid ground. Time freezes. What if you were there that night? Would you believe what your eyes were seeing? The impossible made possible. Nature itself bending to his will. Today, we're stepping into the most astonishing miracles Jesus ever performed, and why they still matter right now. The Bible records over 35 miracles performed by Jesus. Each one broke the rules of our world. Each one left witnesses in shock. But these weren't random acts of power. They were messages, windows into who Jesus really was. We're about to dive into the 5 most incredible miracles Jesus performed. Not just what happened, but how it felt to be there. The fear, the doubt, the moment everything changed. These stories have survived for 2,000 years, not because they're just interesting tales, but because they touched something deep in the human soul. Something that still speaks to us today. Are you ready to experience them for yourself? First miracle, calming the storm. Night had fallen on the Sea of Galilee. The disciples, many of them fishermen who knew these waters, steered their boat across the darkness. Jesus, exhausted from teaching all day, fell asleep in the stern. Without warning, a furious storm swept down on them. This wasn't just rain. This was a tempest that made even seasoned fishermen panic. Waves crashed over the sides. The small fishing boat was filling with water. "Master, don't you care if we drown?" The disciples shook Jesus awake, desperation in their voices. Jesus stood up. The wind whipped his clothes. Water soaked his hair. And then he did something unthinkable. He spoke to the storm. "Quiet, be still." 3 simple words. And immediately, not gradually, not eventually, but immediately, the wind died down. The raging waves flattened to glass. Complete calm. Imagine being in that boat. One moment fighting for your life against the unstoppable force of nature. The next, silence. Just the dripping of water and your own pounding heart. Jesus looked at his disciples. "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified, but not of the storm anymore. They whispered to each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and waves obey him." This wasn't just Jesus saving them from danger. This was Jesus revealing who he truly was, the one who commanded the forces of creation, the master of the natural world itself. When life's storms hit us today, those moments when everything feels out of control, this miracle reminds us of a profound truth. The same voice that calmed the sea can calm the chaos in our lives. The question isn't whether he has the power. The question is whether we'll wake him up and trust him with our storms. Second miracle, feeding the 5,000. The crowd had followed Jesus for days, hungry for his words. Now they were just hungry. 5,000 men, plus women and children, all gathered in a remote place. The sun was setting. The disciples came to Jesus with concern. "Send them away so they can find food." Jesus looked at them. "You give them something to eat." The disciples were stunned. Philip calculated out loud. 8 months' wages wouldn't buy enough bread for each one to have a bite. All they could find was a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 fish. Not even enough for a proper meal for one person, let alone thousands. "Bring them here to me," Jesus said. He took the bread and fish in his hands. He looked up to heaven and gave thanks. Then he broke the loaves, and he kept breaking them, and breaking them, and breaking them. Imagine watching as the disciples' baskets somehow never emptied. The food multiplied in Jesus' hands. Person after person took bread and fish, ate until they were satisfied. Not just a bite, but until they were full. And when everyone had eaten, 12 baskets of leftovers remained. More than they had started with. This wasn't just Jesus being kind. This was Jesus demonstrating his power over scarcity itself. The laws of conservation of matter completely overruled. When we face impossible shortages today, when our resources seem too small for the challenges we face, this miracle reminds us, in the hands of Jesus, what looks too little becomes more than enough. Our limited supply becomes his limitless opportunity. Third miracle, walking on water. The disciples had seen Jesus feed thousands with almost nothing, but now they were alone on the water, struggling against a strong headwind. Between 3 and 6 in the morning, the darkest hours of night, they spotted something that seemed impossible. A figure moving toward them across the surface of the lake. Terror gripped them. "It's a ghost!" they cried. But then they heard his voice. "Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid." Jesus wasn't just floating. He wasn't swimming. He was walking on the churning surface of the water as if it were solid ground. Peter called out, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," Jesus said, and Peter, impulsive, doubtful Peter, stepped out of the boat onto the rolling waves. For a brief, miraculous moment, he too walked on water, until he looked at the wind, until fear replaced faith. Then Peter began to sink, crying out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" When they climbed back into the boat, the wind died down. The disciples were left in awe, worshiping him. "Truly, you are the Son of God." This wasn't just Jesus doing the impossible. This was Jesus inviting others into the impossible with him. When we face obstacles that seem as impassable as water is unwalkable, this miracle reminds us Jesus not only overcomes the impossible himself, but invites us to step out in faith and experience the miraculous with him. Fourth miracle, healing the blind man. He had never seen a sunrise, never watched a bird in flight. Born blind, the man sat begging outside the temple. The disciples asked Jesus, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" But Jesus had a different perspective. This happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. Then Jesus did something strange. He spit on the ground, made mud with his saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. "Go wash in the pool of Siloam," Jesus told him. Imagine being that man, feeling the mud on your eyelids, making your way through familiar darkness to the pool, bending down to wash your face, and then light, color, movement, a world you've heard described but never experienced, suddenly bursting into your consciousness. The man's neighbors were confused. "Isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg?" Some said yes. Others said he just looked similar. "I am the man," he told them. When questioned by the religious leaders, his answer was beautifully simple. "One thing I do know. I was blind, but now I see." This wasn't just Jesus fixing a medical condition. This was Jesus bringing light where there had only ever been darkness, creating function where there had never been function before. When we struggle with spiritual blindness today, unable to see God's purpose or presence, this miracle reminds us Jesus doesn't just improve our vision. He can give sight where there was none. He can help us see what we've never seen before. Fifth miracle, raising Lazarus from the dead. Lazarus had been dead 4 days. In the hot climate of Judea, his body was well into decomposition. His sisters, Mary and Martha, were devastated. Jesus arrived too late, it seemed. Martha ran to meet him. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Jesus told her, "Your brother will rise again." She thought he meant someday in the final resurrection. But Jesus was talking about that very day. At the tomb, a cave with a stone laid across the entrance, Jesus wept. Not the tears of one who had no hope, but the tears of one who felt the full weight of death's sting. Then he gave an order that seemed absurd. "Take away the stone." Martha protested, "But Lord, by this time there is a bad odor." Jesus looked at her. "Did I not tell you that if you believe you will see the glory of God?" They rolled the stone away. Jesus called in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." Imagine standing there, the stench of death in the air, the darkness of the tomb before you, the impossibility of what Jesus just commanded, and then movement from within. Lazarus appeared, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen, a cloth around his face. "Take off the grave clothes," Jesus said, "and let him go." Death itself had been reversed. The ultimate enemy of humanity had been overcome. This wasn't just Jesus performing a wonder. This was Jesus revealing his ultimate power over mortality itself. When we face grief and loss today, when death seems like the final word, this miracle reminds us Jesus has authority even over our most insurmountable enemy. And his promise to Martha echoes through time. "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die." Conclusion. These weren't just impressive displays of power. They were glimpses into the heart of who Jesus is. Each miracle revealed something profound. The storm showed his authority over creation. The loaves demonstrated his ability to provide beyond our limitations. Walking on water revealed his mastery over natural laws. Healing the blind man displayed his power to restore what was broken from birth. Raising Lazarus proved his ultimate victory over death itself. And here's the most incredible part. The same Jesus who performed these miracles is alive today. The same power that calmed storms and conquered death is available now. These miracles weren't just for those who witnessed them. They were recorded so that you and I, thousands of years later, might believe, and in believing, might find life in his name. What storm in your life needs calming? What impossible situation needs his touch? What darkness needs his light? The miracle worker is still at work. The question is, will you believe?